directors, and that is kind of considered a call to order, so we will do flag pledge.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Look at that. I'm punctual.
If you guys like to welcome me.
Yes. Our partner in crime. Okay, roll call. So we have Mary, Michelle, Nathan, Dallas, and Julie, and myself, Carol, and Jim. Hi, Jim.
Present. You look good in the big chair, Carol.
Thank you. We've got him on the screen. Right in front of us. Oh, yeah. Okay, we need approval of the agenda. Do we have any motion for that?
I move to approve the agenda.
Okay, we have a motion in a second. And public participation, the board, we got a vote on the agenda, thank you.
Details.
I know, that's why they put Dallas next to me. Okay, we need to have a vote on this approval of the agenda. We have had a first and a second.
All in favor, say
Aye.
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 Okay, aye. All right. Now, can I go on, guys? No. The board welcomes comments and questions from the public. If you wish to address the board, please fill out a public participation sheet available at the table and give it to the board secretary. We ask that you limit your comments to 3 minutes. If more than one person will be addressing the same topic, we ask that you appoint a spokesperson to speak for the group. Speakers may offer objective criticism of the school operations and programs, but the board will not hear comments regarding individual school personnel. Okay, do we have any? No one's? Okay. Comments from the board, please. So, I guess we don't have any, do we, here at this point? Anybody got? Anybody got? Okay. Besides our principal from the school looking rather dashy tonight.
That's one way to describe it.
If we could get a screenshot, I think it would be good. Anyway, communications, board reports, communication, none. Student representative to the board is Jordan here? There she is. Hi.
Do I just come back up here? Okay. Hi, I'm Jordan Prince. I'm just going to talk a little bit about what's going on at North Bend High School. We opened our winter season this December with games, wrestling matches. Both our boys and girls basketball opened their season against Douglas High School. All 4 of our teams won that night. Our girls basketball team traveled down to Ashland High School last night, and we both won JV and varsity. Our basketball teams will be back at home on December 16th against Newport. Wrestling started their season off at Harrisburg High School, where the girls team placed 3rd and the boys finished 4th. We had 3 people finish in their first in their weight class: Parker Pruitt, Kayleana Mizuchi, and Rowan Hampton. Our wrestlers will compete at the Coast Classic Friday and Saturday. North Bend High School has been putting this on for 39 years, and this year we have 47 teams from around the state of Oregon coming, which will be a big income for our community. Our swim team will be hosting their first meet this Saturday. The meet will start at 11. Our cheer team is selling Taste of the Town tickets, and the winner will be chosen at halftime of our boys basketball game, December 16th. We also have a lot of other good things outside of our athletics. Our band and choir will be doing their winter concert at the Egyptian Theater in Coos Bay on December 19th at 7. They are also hosting a toy drive that night and hope for people to bring toys to donate later on. Our leadership class is bringing back Deck the Halls, which is a fun way for students to decorate their grades, designated hallways, seniors, juniors, sophomores, and freshmen. And we will also be hosting our Christmas Spirit Week next week, as well as our holiday assembly next Thursday.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. So we have Eva Varga. Yes, hi Eva. Hello. Association reports. I have to say it all.
What's that?
They make me say it all.
Oh, yeah. No worries. So, yeah, I'm excited to be here. We had quite an exciting week, day, as you all know. The week before that, our little tsunami warning, that was quite a learning experience, I think, for the entire community. But I think that the staff at North Bend and the kids in North Bend, the entire community here, really rose above like everyone's expectations, especially when I'm hearing inklings of how things were handled in Coos Bay, and I'm like, wow, okay, North Bend did it right. So, anywho, and then I took it as a teachable moment and have been working with the fifth graders at Hillcrest to learn all about earthquakes and tsunamis. So that's been quite fun. Teachers collectively are looking forward to the winter break, as I know everyone is. And this year we also had an extended Thanksgiving break, which was quite a treat. We know that that's not going to be part of our regular schedule, but it was certainly welcome, and we appreciated that extra day. So can you pull up the slides, please? For our extra mile nominations this time around, we just have a few. The first is, I believe, Julie Enns. That's the first one I have on here. Yes. So Julie was nominated by Janet Jensen. Julie is the TOSA at Bridges, and she does a lot of the heavy lifting at Bridges. She finds the time to talk with each and every one of the students there. She calls parents and has difficult conversations. She finds resources for students that specifically like finding workplace placement or workforce placement. She coordinates career-related learning experiences that appeal to the students there. She's also focused on helping students have a plan that will lead them to success after graduation. And so she's part of the CARE team and coordinates efforts to support students with mental health needs. And so she's very integral to the success and the graduation rate at North Bend High School, because she's the one person that really persists in getting reluctant students to complete their requirements for graduation. So bravo to Julie. She's amazing, and we're lucky to have her part of the Bridges program. Secondly, we have Stephanie McCord, and in seeking out a picture of Stephanie, I found this one on Facebook, and it features not only Stephanie, but Dana, as well as, oh my gosh.
Miss Brown.
Brown, yeah, thank you. Goodness, I'm not at North Bay, so yeah, Mrs. Brown. So Stephanie is an amazing educator. She is masterful at making sure all students are receiving the reading interventions that they need. She goes above and beyond for her students, building strong relationships and creating a positive Title I classroom environment. She also reaches beyond the classroom and reaches out to teachers throughout in the building to make sure that they have the resources and supports that they need. And she's also often found filling the gaps where needed without ever being asked. She's a dedicated educator and a positive light throughout the community, throughout the district, both for her students, her colleagues, and all the staff that she coordinates. And she was nominated by Leah Johnson. And then lastly,
We interrupt this regular.
what am I doing in here?
We're actually here to honor Eva today, because she
Oh, how
continually
embarrassing.
goes the extra mile for
Oh my
everyone. And we really appreciate that she does recognize the staff, classified and certified and admin, and she just does such a fabulous job representing our
union and our district, and the person who usually is the one recognizing people doesn't ever get recognized. So we want to make sure that we recognize her tonight.
Thank you.
So here you go.
That's so funny, I didn't check my slides, obviously.
Well, that's what we were just doing in the corner.
Very good. And, oh my gosh, and did you know, these are my favorite flowers.
Oh, good.
These were my wedding flowers.
They're from Christina.
Yay, very cool. Anyway, thank you. All right, and then.
Give me a smile.
All right, and then lastly, we're recognizing this team, and as I was alluding to earlier, we, I think, really responded to the tsunami warning, I mean, we've got things to learn, obviously, everybody does, but this team really stepped up. I think many of our regular building principals were not here on that day, if I'm correct, and so we had assistant principals, Michelle, and Joe, all stepped up and filled in roles and just answered questions and, you know, and even, I think part of the chaos of the day, right, was just specifically speaking to Hillcrest, because that's where I was, but, you know, families are worried and they want to be with their families, and so even though Hillcrest is a safe place to be, like everybody wants to come up to Hillcrest, but they were trying to coordinate, families wanted to pick up their children, and it just, you know, the regular day-to-day dismissal at the end of the day is a little chaotic, but this was just even more so, but like trying to make sure that, we checked to make sure that the student, the person picking up the student was allowed to take that person home. There was just so much. And so everybody just really pulled together, and this team of 6 just really, without them leading us, I think that things could have been quite messy. I mean it was. Anywho, you didn't give me a script for that one there, Heather. Anyway, so all good, and we're also getting or preparing to request to bargain for our contract in the spring. So that's looming in front of us. We know that's coming, and just wanting to let you all know that we're looking forward to that process, and that will be in the future. So, yep.
And thank you to that team and everyone involved. It took everybody to straighten that day out, huh?
Yeah.
A little interesting. Okay, we have 4D, and that is our HR Human Resource Update. Tim Kreider.
About this time last year, I provided you a human resources update, so I wanted to give you the same type of information this school year. There's just some basic information about the human resources department, what they do, what we do, and so the numbers I think are interesting. There is a typo there, teacher fill rate 23-24. The first one should say 24-25. So year to date, in terms of substitute teachers, the fill rate is 93%. So last year the total was 92%, the year before that 85 and 87. So again, we're seeing that positive increase in fill rates. Naturally, we'd like to see 100%. It is just practically impossible to find people to do that 100% of the time, but we are happy to see it going up. Same thing with educational assistants. These are the roles that, you know, they're directly working with children, they're classified, and it's really hard to fill these positions as substitutes. And so to see us get up to 49% at this time of the year is really fantastic. That's, as you can see, by far the highest it's been for quite a few years. So we're proud of that. It's a big lift on other classified employees when someone's absent and we can't fill the position. So the more we can do to try to fill those roles, the better we are. Staffing update, you just have the count of employees and the different positions. This time, since July 1st, right now we have 33 hires, newly hired to the district. 7 of those are certified, 17 are classified. As compared to overall last year, we had 66 new hired employees. As you can see, essentially 44 classified positions throughout last year, only 17 this year to this point. We're about halfway through, so again, we're really happy to see that consistency in our staffing. In terms of the current open positions, we are tonight, we posted it the other day, but we are tonight verifying according to board action that there is a third grade opening at Hillcrest as well. So that's already posted. The school psychologist is not truly an opening. It's sort of this, it's posted as a hope and a dream. We've always been trying to fill the second school psych role. We just have not been able to find one since Suzanne left quite a few years ago. So we're down to Bill Berrien. We have a TOSA, a teacher on special assignment, and a role that supports Bill. We just have the school psych posted because we're hoping to find one. We had received a rumor that the new certified UNICEF rep's wife was a school psychologist, so we were trying to lure her in, but she took a higher paying position elsewhere. So that's where we are in the HR world right now.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, we are now down to 4E, superintendent report.
So in the superintendent report, you see what I have written, as is common each month. I write it at the time that I need to so that it can be in the board packet ahead of time. So you will see a lot of stuff about a lot of things other than this amount. So I want to take this moment to kind of talk through that just a little bit. We, as you know, are having our board meeting tonight because last Thursday was day one, officially day two, of the law conference. And so nearly every administrator in the district was a law conference. And we encourage that. We want them to go to this. It's probably the best conference we can go to in a year. I think I shared with you that I was doing grandfather leave. So at 7 o'clock on Thursday morning, I got on a plane headed to El Paso, Texas. It's a long story, but I had a 6-hour layover in Las Vegas. And so I'm sitting there at the airport in Las Vegas, looking out over the beautiful countryside. And the phone rings. We have a tsunami warning. What do we do? So I'm 1,600 miles away. Most of the administrators are 90 miles away in Eugene. We've got people on the ground. You saw the list of the people who are on the ground. The only the only administrative person that we had at the district office was Joe. Okay. And then we had one principal that was in the building. It was John, as you saw. And then North Bay, both of their administrators were out of the building at the conference. Bottle was in the building at Hillcrest, and Tracy was in the building at the high school, and there we were. So we, 15 years ago when I was a middle school principal, and if you have a tsunami warning, you evacuate, period, right? Interesting that afterwards we have taken a look at a lot of maps that interestingly enough show the middle school and high school in the green zone. Although they say that the water gets really close to the front parking lot, and you don't want to be in the welding. You don't want to be welding because the water could get to there inside the building on that wing of high school. But I didn't know all of that information, and so they said, Vince, what do you want us to do? And I said, evacuate. So we went up the hill, and we were fortunate, of course, in all respects. Number one, that there was no damage to anything. Okay, so let's just say that all up and down the coastline, we aren't dealing with catastrophes. Number two, we didn't have a localized earthquake because that changes everything in terms of what decisions we make about what to do with our staff and our students, right? One of the biggest dangers of moving kids from where they are up on top of the hill is crossing Broadway, and potentially if there is down power lines, live wires, and so on and so forth. So we were fortunate that we didn't actually have an earthquake locally. We're also And it's a great learning experience for us to have to go through that. We've spent a lot of hours this week talking through what we did, whether or not it was effective or not effective. In the public eye, we were not, as you guys have talked about, we came out 2 thumbs up because I think part of the intuition is that we have a tsunami issue get to higher ground. So evacuating the middle school and the high school was intuitively the right thing to do. And the place that we went intuitively was the right place to go. It's actually a tsunami evacuation zone in the Republic. Our staff did a really, really, really nice job, considering that it's hard enough. As my son said while we were in El Paso, it's hard enough to do this when you're all day. To do this with your leadership in various places on the earth, not including here, was extraordinarily difficult. I just want to say thank you to Tracy and Mike at the high school for taking the steps they needed to take. I want to thank Jared and North Bend Police Department who helped get us across Broadway. I want to thank John for taking a bullhorn up there so that you can communicate with people, right? Knowing to do that to help that process. I want to thank Stephanie and Leah Johnston too for their leadership out in North Bay. Made a huge difference out there in terms of the issue at the elementary schools. Of course, we weren't evacuating them, but kids knew how should we talk to them about it, what should we do, and how do we, the littlest people have the least capability of kind of weighing all of these different scenarios and staying and processing it. Needed help with adults, and adults stepped in and made that really work for kids. And then the process of parents, as Eva talked about, if you haven't been at Hillcrest to watch their system of getting kids out the door at the end of the day, it's a machine, all right? I saw it last year for the first time, and it's a machine. It's like there's people everywhere. They got this, they got that, they got people out there running around. It's like it's a machine, okay? But this was happening during lunch, right? So we weren't sitting every kid home. So we had to supervise kids in other parts of the building. So the machine only had a few of its parts, and they weren't working in the same way that they normally work. And then you had people outside that were, like, unfortunately, we had a little bit of a mob mentality on the outside, right? People were like yelling things to our staff. And Lorraine, who goes out there, she's out there doing the thing and trying to help make sure that we safely get a kid to somebody on the list until they so they take them away. When you had parents literally saying they were trying to go through the door so they could go find their kid and grab them, and we had to say no, you can't do that. We've got to do the safety. I want to thank Joe. Joe was huge in trying to help provide leadership in the building, but then Joe, you went up on the hill, right? So you were up there and trying to make communication happen. Michelle up on the hill trying to make sure kids were dealt with and so on and so forth. There's a lot of anxious kids, a lot of anxious staff up on the hill. Those guys and the staff that went out into the buildings to support the buildings. And so that was incredible. Like I said, we take care of our staff at the district office, and so we wanted them to kind of get out of the building. We'll find out later that at a tsunami situation in the city of North Bend, their command center is the fire department, which is exactly the same elevation as the district office. So I guess next time, we probably don't feel like we need to go somewhere, right? So there were people that, in the absence of extraordinary circumstances, we had people that made extraordinary decisions and stepped up in an extraordinary way, right? And I'm just really grateful. I mean, they're only 1,600 miles away. I've got the camera system on my laptop, and I'm there at the airport, and I'm actually looking in the buildings to see if there are any kids left behind. You know, like those kind of things. Kids in the bathroom, like wherever we go. And it was clear. It was like they were all wrong. He did so in a good way, and I could see how anxious the parents were. I looked at the elementaries and saw the crowds of people up front, and how that was going. And well, I felt helpless just because I'm just watching on the camera. I felt grateful for my wife next door. She got on the phone, and there's all of a sudden a meteorologist from one of the news stations that are just going constantly about, like they weren't cutting away to the Price is Right. This was a serious thing for them. They were on 24/7 during this time, and so she's feeding me valuable information. A group of people that Eugene, all of our people in Eugene gathered together. They huddled, which it sounded like every South Coast team was having their huddle from everybody in Eugene, and so I got valuable information, and they were communicating. And I'd just be getting ready to sit down on Parent Square and type something up, and you name it, it's on there, right? Just exactly what I was going to say, they had on there already. So the work that they did in Eugene was extremely grateful. So when we talk about needing a team to make work, I'm not sure when you feel the most vulnerable and then the team steps up the way you just dreamed the team could step up. My team, this team, our team stepped up. And so there's a lot to learn from it, and there's going to be continued growth. Like, did you know, because we had a meeting, and we're talking about food, we're talking about what happens if we have to keep them, and should we buy the buckets that have some supplies, like that kind of stuff, right? So that we can hang on to kids for a while. And then I'm thinking, well, I wonder if we're in a food service can make that happen. Non-perishable things that don't have to be cooked, they can just be handed to. And Amy goes, oh yeah, we do that. Like what? Okay. Well, we order so that we have 2 weeks in advance that we have this thing cooked for the whole group. But if we can't send them home, we've got an entire week's worth of non-perishable ready to go for our buildings. I didn't even know that. Okay? And it's just like, wow, that's amazing. The team, somewhere down the line said, we need to be able to do this. And so we're not, they do that as a matter of course. And so the granola bars you're gonna get from the bucket, it's 12 years old. You're gonna have granola bars here that are the same ones we'd be putting out during lunch or breakfast or whatever. So I think there's some amazing things that come out of it. It's just in our knowledge. I've never spent more time looking at tsunami maps and things like that. But every situation is a little bit different. We got some important breaks on this one that we're working on. And Parent Square, our communication tool, we heard over and over again how people appreciated the frequency and the content of our communication. We literally didn't get any phone calls saying, I had no idea what was going on. I was single. And so that's pretty impressive. And that's thanks to Joe, and thanks to Dan and their work, the team in Eugene, the team locally. We got information out to folks. And so it worked out okay for us. Anyway, that's what I wanted to share. Thank you to everybody in the room.
And the teachers, the teachers and the classified staff.
Exactly.
That left, and the students as well. Were very well behaved, followed directions, so everybody across the board. So
Yeah.
I think it was good that we had kind of it was a practice because nothing actually happened. But now that we've had that, because what happens if it's a real earthquake and the phones go down? So that's an issue that, you know, I thought about, because we're getting all this communication through emails and phone, but if there was an actual earthquake that everything went, at least now we know, okay, this is the protocol, this is what's happening at the school. You know, I'm stuck in Hauser, but my person in town is being taken care of, they're going up a hill, or they're, you know, at least we know that, even if we don't get a phone call. That's what I worry about, is communications going down.
Right.
But we still have people in action that are doing what they're supposed to be doing at the schools.
And try to make the best decision possible. One of the things as we talked about it, every situation has variables that mean that as much as you plan for what to do, there's too many variables. Okay? Especially in the tsunami / earthquake / right? So the maps themselves talk about, you know, the tsunami that's a distant tsunami. Well, that's like the Japan tsunami. So the ones that we have 5, 6, 7 hours to before we know that the waves are going to get you, versus the local one, right? So this Northern California one is kind of between, right? It's not necessarily, it's not the Japan one, but it's not the one that's happening, you know, 15 miles off the coast right here, and we can feel the earthquake. And this one, you know, was a 7 point, I think it ended up being 7.3, which is enough to produce a significant tsunami. But of course, this one didn't cause a wave down. Joe was talking about it. The plate shifts side to side, it doesn't necessarily cause a wave, but they go up and down, then a wave comes from us. And I didn't know that information, but there was work done in the last 5 to 10 years where geologists came here, talked about that, and created some ideas and some plans that we looked at. But if we have a localized actual earthquake, and there's power lines down everywhere, you don't necessarily go up the hill. And so the decision that we make at that moment, at that time, the next time something like this happens, we may not take them up the hill at all. We may keep them, you know, at the school. If we don't believe, like the maps are kind of worst case scenario. So if it's something less than the worst case scenario, we take that route. And parents may not be particularly happy with not going up the hill at a particular time because it seems counterintuitive. So we're trying to use the data that we have, but also understand the anxiety that comes from that. Like, you know, it might be the right thing, but it's the right thing to do. The data may say stay put, but it might be the right thing to do to try to move to higher ground just because it comforts people to know that their kids are going to a place. And yet, crossing Broadway is, it's dangerous in a normal situation to try to get, you know, 700 and 1,100 kids across Broadway in a 20-minute time period, if you have to. So when I got the call, I didn't even know, like I said, asked Mike, I said, you know how much time it's going to be before it gets to where we are? He didn't know. I ended up getting that information, you know, through, I think, Valerie, and then it started to get posted. It was supposed to be at Charleston by 11:40. So every time just a little bit different. And we weren't talking about a localized earthquake that would take out the dam. Okay. If that goes, okay, I hate to be really blunt, but if that goes, and we just have a few minutes, we're seeing kids run, try to get to Broadway, try to get over there, because both of the schools are underwater if the dam breaks. And so any kind of a thing that causes that to go, and it's not that far away from us. It's just really not that far away. And debris and everything's going to be coming down. So it's, every situation has its own nuances that as much as we plan, we know that, you know, every plan could have make on-site decisions, remote decisions in one classroom and another classroom and another classroom. So it's not just leadership decisions being made at every level. So, do the best.
You guys did a great job. Nothing but good things out in the community, so that was really great.
We have every reason to be very, very proud of the team, and grateful, also very blessed that, you know, this was a good training operation, and very grateful nothing happened. So, Okay, let's go on. We have 4F, the final audit presentation and questions.
Do we have our presenters online? You want to sit up here for questions, or you'll take them back there? Okay. So we have Umpqua Valley Financial presenting the audit for you tonight. It was a pleasure working with the new auditors this year, and you know, as I've said in previous years, the work of Lorraine and the finance team, and it's ongoing all year long. An audit isn't just a process that takes place over the course of a couple months. It's something that they're preparing for and working on all year long. So tonight you get the pleasure of listening to our audit report.
Steve, I think you're on mute.
We'll have bump down copies for you as
There
well.
we go.
There. You should have paper copies or the electronic in your packets.
Are we ready to go here?
Yes, sir.
All right, Ash, you want to go first?
Yes, thank you for having us. And I'm Ash, and we have Steve here. And I would just like to start with thanking everyone and thank you for hosting us. And everything went really well when we were there at fieldwork, and a lot of our questions were answered. And we also did receive the any documentation that we requested on time and right on the spot. So thank you for providing that to us. And this is why we were able to get the audit done on time. So with that, Steve, would you like to start with the presentation? Are you able to share the screen?
Can we turn the volume up?
Yes, I'm getting a memo that my screen sharing has been disabled. Can you open that up for me, Mr. Host? Let me try again. Screen sharing. There we go. Let's see. Is that showing up for you guys now?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Okay, good. All right. Well, so I'm going to make this as painless as possible. And we've come up with a PowerPoint presentation that we hope will scoot us right through this process. And let's see. So, oops. So the first thing we want to talk about just briefly is the authority that we have in doing the audit very briefly. We're Umpqua Valley Financial. We're licensed with the State Board of Accountancy. I hold my CPA license and municipal auditor's license, as does Ash. That gives us the authority to do these audits. We audit roughly 80 cities, school districts, and special districts around the state at this point. We've been doing audits in the state for over 30 years now. And so we're excited to work with North Bend for the first time, North Bend School District. Couple of things that are always interesting for us and hopefully will be for you is what it is an auditor does. We start by asking questions. We need to get an understanding of what's going on there. We ask about the basis of accounting, the principles of accounting that are used there, how things are being summarized, what financial accounting software is being used. We ask about internal controls, which involves the control environment, how people think about internal controls. Risk assessment procedures, another important part of internal controls. where things are likely to be most problematic in terms of financial reporting. It's important to do risk assessment because it is virtually impossible, too expensive, really, to have optimal internal controls. So with the limited resources available with the accounting staff and other staff that you have there, risk assessment is the tools used to decide what procedures to policies and procedures to implement, to design and implement. So that's the next part of internal controls. Monitoring is that part of the process of internal controls. For example, a really important part of internal controls is doing bank reconciliations. And another important part of internal controls is to make sure that those bank reconciliations are actually being done. It's part of the policies and procedures to do them. Monitoring is that part of internal controls, again, that makes sure they're done. And communications is that part of internal controls that is the back and forth between staff and management as to whether controls are being effectively uh, implemented, and if they're not, then what to do about them to make them better. Some of the communications that can happen during the monitoring process is feedback to say, oh, let's do a little different here. So that's internal controls, and that's one of the things that we really have to look at. And when we do our audit risk and assess the controls, and that becomes a big part of our audit procedures is for determining where we need to focus our audit procedures is looking at the control risks that exist in any government. And those risks of control errors are due to errors that happen. And we all know that errors can happen. We are full of errors ourselves, unfortunately. As auditors, we know that we're all just humans. And irregularities, which can be just unusual transactions that may or may not have gotten posted correctly. We also assess risk on a lesser note due to fraud, um, which a lot of people get confused when they think that we're doing an audit that our main focus is on trying to detect fraud. And that is not the case. We are not performing a fraud audit, but rather a financial statement audit. Our job is to issue a report saying that the financial statements are there without material misstatement. So that's our primary focus. But again, all of these things make up part of that process. And the things that we do beyond assessing risk and asking questions are those things that you more often think about: testing for the accuracy and legitimacy of transactions, verifying account balances, and a whole range of other things that we look at: reports, documentation, payroll records, those kinds of things. We also test compliance related to laws that the district has to comply with, whether related to grants or other state charter type requirements. Continuing on with our scope of what we do, we end up issuing reports. When we're all done, we have to report on the financial statements as required by GASB, the Governmental Accounting Standards Board. Oregon Secretary of State's minimum standards also require that we issue a report that you'll see at the end of the audit document, or the financial statement document, or towards the end of it. That is our report on whether the district complied with about 10 or so different compliance requirements that the state has mandated we do. And then there's reports that we do that are required by the federal government when applicable. And you'll see more about that on the next page or the next screen here. While it is not part of our audit, we usually end up assisting with the preparation of the financial statement report. And there are some requirements. You can see those below on what's included in those reports. It's important to note that assistance of preparing the financial statements is not technically part of the audit. It's something that we end up doing a lot, though, like I said, for almost every government that we audit, mostly because the reports themselves to meet the standards issued by the Governmental Accounting Standards Board are fairly complex, and a lot of the local governments that we audit just don't have the manpower and the skill set to get those done right. For us, it's really important that we make sure that we don't end up auditing ourselves in that regard. We need to make sure that somebody on staff at every place that we audit has the skills, knowledge, and experience to make sure that we are doing what is expected of us during the audit. And that's a requirement by the Governmental Accounting Standards Board and the AICPA in regards to our standards. Let's see. So the single audit is a really important part of the audit for North Bend School District. Any school district or other government that spends more than $750,000 of federal financial assistance in a fiscal year is required to be subjected to a single audit. Completely separate set of audit procedures that have to do a lot with internal controls related to financial reporting and on compliance, with a big range of general compliance requirements and specific grant program compliance requirements. There's like over 1,000-page document that we have to refer to in regards to compliance requirements and the audit procedures related to those. We end up focusing a lot on the understanding what each local government has for internal controls that they have designed and implemented related to the financial reporting and compliance requirements with the major grant programs that exist that you've received money for and spent. We have to evaluate and test those controls, which means looking at documentation, asking questions, examining reports, again, a wide range of things that we end up doing to test those controls. And then we have to report on whether there are any significant weaknesses in internal controls and or matters of non-compliance, and report those in the reports that are part of the final section of the single audit report, findings and question costs sections. Within that section also is the schedule of expenditures of federal awards. The last part of that process is to submit to the Federal Audit Clearinghouse the information, the CFA information and the results of the single audit. And that has to be submitted and approved by both us and you guys at the district level. That's a more involved process for a lot of governments, especially since COVID money dropped into our world. Most of that has now been spent at most districts, so things have settled down a little bit in the world of single audits, but that was really a complicated time for everybody, trying to make sure that that money got spent within the compliance requirements that were essentially or initially not provided for that money, but ultimately became what was considered a high risk award for anybody that received it, anybody and everybody. Let's see. So, very briefly, in looking at the financial statements, the audit report, that some people call it that, there is initially the auditor's report. That's where we describe in a fair amount of detail the scope of the audit, your role and ours in the audit process, and ultimately we issue our opinion. Are the financial statements without material misstatement? This report used to be 1 page long and it was fairly concise. But starting about 20 years ago, it has now grown to a 3 page report that includes a lot more information than it ever did before about, for example, what we do in terms of the audit, what parts of the financial statement document we are issuing our report on, issuing an opinion on, and those parts that we aren't issuing an opinion on. And so that report has just gotten to be more and more detailed as there is just a need for that as things have gotten more complicated. The second part of the financial statements is this management discussion and analysis. It's a really fairly informative and more or less easy to read analysis and overview of the financial report. Very summary information, but gives you kind of a good overview of things. Then there are what is called the basic financial statements. That includes the statement of net position and statement of activities. Those first two reports are based on the full accrual basis of accounting. They include the long-term debt that the district has, the bonds and other notes and contracts payable. It also includes the capital assets of the district. Those are things that are not included in the fund financial statements, the next several statements that include both the statements and a couple of reconciliation reports that help anybody that's interested in trying to figure out how you get from these fund financial statements, which, by the way, are presented on a modified accrual basis, more or less budget basis. How we get those reconciliations take us from that basis of accounting to these reports and the basis of accounting, full accrual basis of accounting. The last part of the basic financial statements is the notes to the financial statements. Those have gotten to be an extremely long set of notes, particularly with the addition of the PERS or the pension and OPEB notes, which go on for about 18 pages now. If you ever are having trouble falling asleep, grab this report and start reading that section of the notes, and I guarantee you'll fall asleep in no time. That's my favorite joke right there. So this report. Anyway, the next section is what's called the required supplementary information. It includes the general fund budget versus actual report, and usually the federal funds budget versus actual, and a number of other schedules that relate to the PERS and OPEB liabilities and other information regarding that. Getting down towards the backside of the financial statements is the supplementary information. Any funds that are not considered major funds, and those funds that are capital projects or debt service funds are included here, the budget versus actual reports. Another section, other information, includes debt schedules, other reports required by the state. The summary schedules for Oregon Department of Education that report the revenues and expenditures of each of the fund groups in the format that they require. Then we get to the last little bit, the legal and other regulatory reports. Those are the required report that Oregon has. And sometimes if there's not a single audit, Oregon Department of Education includes the inclusion of the CFA, the Schedule of Expenditures of Federal Awards, and that's part of this other information part. Otherwise, it's part of the single audit section. Now to get to the real meat of the matter, your guys' statement of net position, the first of the schedules or statements, which is on page 11 of the report. And I'm not going to spend a lot of time with any of these, but I will be happy to answer any questions related to these or anything else that I've gone over, or any other questions you have. But in very brief summary, the district's net position, which is essentially your assets minus your liabilities and these other things called deferred inflows and deferred outflows. The net position is at $21 million, which is up from 16 million the year before. You can read a little bit more about that in the management discussion and analysis. Total assets, first part of this $44 million here. It includes cash. It includes the capital assets. It includes some other things called SABITAs, or subscription-based information technology agreements, and also some lease assets that are part of that. Total liabilities is $31 million. That includes not only the bonds that are payable and subscription liabilities, but also the net pension liability, that amount that is kind of out of everybody's control. It's the number, that value is given to us by PERS, Oregon PERS. They calculate that. They have actuaries that do that calculation for us. Also part of this, again, is these deferred amounts, and the significant amounts there are also related to pension. PERS information that we get from PERS, the deferred inflows, $2 million related to pensions there, and the deferred outflows, $10 million there. All of that, and trying to understand all of that, is what that 18 pages of PERS notes is all about. I'm not going to try and describe what all of that means to you, but that is an important part of the calculation in the district's net position. The next page is the statement of activities, more or less a profit and loss report. Again, on the full accrual basis. So this doesn't, without looking at the reconciliation reports a few pages back in the audit, doesn't agree with or compare with directly anything to do with budgetary information. I personally am not super fond of this statement because it's so kind of upside down and backwards. It starts off with expenses first, and then presents program revenues, which are essentially charges for services, some of the tuition that you guys collect, and food service is this enterprises and community services, food service charges. Then there's a column for operating grants, and the net cost of these programs, instruction programs, support service programs, and so on. Down below all that are all the other revenues, the most significant revenues that exist for any school district, property taxes and the state school fund, the SSF receipts that are presented or provided by the state from state income taxes. Also in there is the interest earned on the investments of the district, which grew a lot in the last year or two, as you know, because interest rates finally went up. Ultimately, the change in net position, $4 million for this year, and again, the net position of the district. So again, kind of an upside down backwards report, hard to read if you ask me, but that's the standard format that we have to do to stay in compliance. Last thing we're going to look at is just the general fund budget versus actual, which is back on page 60 of the report. It presents things in a more what we're used to looking at: revenues first, expenditures last. And we have two columns: the original budget and the final budget when there are changes made to the budget. The actual column, what in revenues and expenses were actually recorded for the year, and the variance. We look at this column to see if you guys went over budget in any one area, and in this case, you did not. This section down here, other financing sources and uses, is just usually just interfund transfers in and out. And then we have the beginning and ending fund balances, and that is that schedule. So we are happy to entertain any questions. Oh, I forgot about this one. Yeah, so the auditor's report, you guys got a clean report. That's a good thing. It's otherwise known as unmodified report. That's as opposed to a qualified report where there are some reasons for us to add little qualifiers that something was wrong. But in this case, you guys got a clean report. That means no material misstatements in the financial statements. As far as the single audit, we also had no findings of non-compliance or other weaknesses in your internal controls. So that's a real important part of our report that I almost neglected to talk about. But anyway, so yeah, good report all the way around. It was great to work with the staff, and again, they just do a great job. It's not an awful lot of school district audits that we can come back to the board and say that there were no issues, no significant issues, no significant problems to report. There's always things that can be improved. Again, internal controls. We wish that we had the resources to do the best possible of everything in terms of internal controls. There are always some weaknesses. Probably the most common weaknesses have to do with the student body funds and the accounting of those funds. What we asked about and detected, learned about with your guys' student body accounting made us comfortable with what's going on there, and can't really offer any great ways to improve on that without, again, spending some more money on those internal controls. So, all right. So, any questions? I'm going to see if I can't figure out how to unshare my screen now. But while I'm doing that, if anybody has any questions, again, I would be happy to entertain those.
Auditing is such a fascinating subject.
Coming from
but an important one.
From a lawyer.
From a lawyer, yeah.
Anyway, I was just concerned, as to whether there were any irregularities or anything, and it sounds like everything was, just hunky-dory. Just fine.
I'm having a hard time hearing you, so, and I've,
Okay, did this work? Okay, I just was saying that, I was concerned to make sure that we had no irregularities and concerns that you had, and I'm encouraged by your opinion that everything was looking fine, and so I'm happy with it.
yeah, it's always nice to know that things were in good shape. And I wait till the end of the report because I just need you guys on the edge of your seat the whole time. Any other questions?
Yep. Appreciate your time.
Thank
There
you.
we go. I figured out how to stop sharing. If not, then I thank you guys. I always want to make sure I thank each of you guys on the board too. You should give yourselves a pay raise. About 100% of what you're getting now would be good.
It's on the agenda.
Yeah.
I do appreciate it, though. I spent 5 years on the Roseburg City Council, and believe me, I know just how thankless that job can be. But I know you do get occasional thanks, and I just wanted to add my thanks to that for what you do there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You did a great job.
Well, Steve and Ash, thank you very much. Again, a pleasure working with you, and they're gonna vote on the consent agenda, and then after that, they'll take action item to accept the audit as presented. So I believe at this point, if there's no questions, you're free to go.
All right. I appreciate that so much. Thank you, guys.
Thank you all.
Bye-bye.
And to our finance team, wow.
Yeah, like I said, a lot of work goes into that all year long. I believe I heard him say it's very unusual for a district to be as clean as us.
Very unusual.
That's just the North Bend
All
way.
right, guys, good job.
Just gotta say, everything we keep hearing that you guys are killing it, but not me to financially.
And we do continue to hear about school districts struggling, so I'm grateful for the team we have, and
Yeah.
we are weathering the declining enrollment storm well, so.
All right. Okay, then it looks like we are at 5, action consent agenda items.
I move to approve the consent agenda items.
Need a second? We got a second? Well, they got the financial report. Yeah, yeah.
These
So,
isn't loading all of a sudden. So was it Michelle or Dallas or something?
It was Mary.
Mary. Neither.
But you were really close.
okay, so we have a vote to accept the consent agenda as presented here. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Aye. And
Jim, you talk. Good.
Aye.
we have everybody on board there. Unanimous, yes. Dallas making sure I'm using the right words.
I got her again.
The magic words.
Oh, goodness, leave her alone. Okay, so board minutes. It looks like here, right?
Number 6, actually.
Number
No,
6, we got everything in here, didn't we?
Yeah, the audit
Right.
report.
Down to the audit report. Okay, so let's find that one. There it is.
I move to accept the audit report as presented for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2024, prepared by Umpqua Valley Financial.
I'll second that.
A first and a second. And so we need a vote on that. Can we move to vote?
Yes.
Yes. Yes. We got all yeses? Got a yes from you, Jim, huh? All right. Looks like it's unanimous, Michelle. All right, to a first read, no action.
I would like to make an action on that, actually, please.
Okay.
I would like to remove EFAG1 for the work session. What do you have to say?
Okay.
If you want.
You may make a motion.
I'm making a motion.
Table it.
Do we table it?
Would we do that on our first read?
I don't know. I didn't know how to
It's
do
just-
that.
So basically, I took the first read, you accept it in a first read, because it's just information,
Right.
just for you
I
to
don't
look
think
at.
it's so.
Then when we get to action,
The next time is we'll do.
or if you want to have a discussion about it, either at the board meeting, or if we, because this would be, if we want to table it for January, add it to the work session in January, and then we bring it back in February, that's, yes, I could kind of do that.
Which one are you wanting to?
It's the nutrition one.
The nutrition part of it.
Okay, all right.
It's EFAG.
I think it's called local wellness.
Yes.
Oh, okay, all right.
In a sense, this is it's a first read, so it's just saying we
Mine's
got
not
approved on it,
All of a sudden, I'm
we're not approving.
Refresh it.
Okay, so we're going to be dealing with.
So is there a second on the motion?
Do we have a second on that?
What was the motion?
Motion was to table that for a work session on this first read. And this is actually not it's not
It's not like an
if we just move to approve this as presented, it just means that we read it. It doesn't mean that we're approving this to move on. It means that we approved it as a read, like how it looks, and then the next time
Is
we
that
approve it.
necessary?
Or do we bring it out just to talk about it?
Well, actually, you're not, it's information only.
Yeah.
So you don't have to take action on even accepting.
Right, it's just information.
So it's just for information.
Okay.
So at any point in time, like in January, come back and take action, we would only take action on the ones that you choose to take action on. Okay. So, and then, so at that point, if you choose to not take action on something, then we can go from there. The other thing that you could potentially do, Julie, is we could have a conversation, like, if you wanted to meet with us and kind of go over it,
Okay.
have some discussion before January, which is kind of hard to do, because it's just a week of, because once we're out of here, we're going to be out of here. But we can potentially next week, or the Monday, the 23rd, and just kind of go over your concerns.
Okay.
You can do it that way too.
We'll do that right.
Want to go that way then?
Yeah, and so I had a couple of questions about it, so, and the person on the already asked me about it, so.
Okay.
Just trying to get some more information on it, so, clarification.
Yeah.
Could you clarify what page that's on?
106 and 107. It's the top paragraph, page 107.
Yeah,
It
okay,
says
local wellness.
Local wellness, that's what we're asking.
Sorry.
And then the policy, and then it goes, it's on 119 again, the actual policy.
Okay. All right.
It's policy EFAG1.
Well, it's technically just EFA.
Yeah, it's just
EFA.
EFA.
That's what was confusing.
Yeah, I was kept looking for it.
I just have one.
I was reading it off of here. So do we need a second on that?
No, we don't.
No, we don't.
Sorry,
So,
just
yeah,
making,
that's like the motion failed.
just making it more chaotic than it needs to be, that's all.
That's all we're doing.
All right,
All right.
let's move on then. It looks like we're at number 8. Budget committee calendar action.
And of course, this is just the calendar of the budget process.
And this follows our standard budget committee calendar process, where we typically plan on 2 budget committee meetings, and then a public hearing on the budget in June. So these dates pretty much align with what we've been doing every year.
I move to adopt the 2025-26 budget committee calendar as presented.
Second.
Okay, we have a first and a second, which means we're now down for, oh, do we have a discussion on anything? I don't think so. No? No? All righty. Then let's,
Yeah,
with that,
All in favor?
yeah, that's what I'm trying to,
Yeah, go ahead, you can do it.
can I do it? All right, can we have a vote on this? Okay, that's, Jim's got his thumb up, so that's one.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, looks like unanimous. Okay. I'm just killing it, I know. All right, number 9. We're going to be announcing the budget committee openings. The district announced vacancies on the North Bend School District Budget Committee for Zone 3 and 7. The terms for those zones expired June 30th, 24. Zone 3 is currently vacant and Zone 7 is currently held by Dina Lasky. The new terms will expire June 30th of 27. The board will make the appointments at the regular board meeting scheduled for February 9th, 2025. Interested parties should submit a letter of interest to the North Bend School District. Attention, Board of Directors, 1913 Mead Street, North Bend, Oregon 97459, or email letter of interest to info@northbend.k12.org.us. Letters of interest need to be received by 4 p.m. on Wednesday, January the 8th of 2025. All righty. Any board comments? Thanks. You guys are great. It looks like our next meeting is going to be January the 9th, 2025. And that means we shall adjourn. And it looks like we're under Christina's rule.